YouTube family, welcome to my channel. Thank you for tuning in. I am coming back to you today to give you the results of my African Ancestry DNA test. So back in February, I took the African Ancestry DNA test to see where I was from. Now, before then, I had taken, well, not taken, I had gotten a divination, a reading, to find out that same information. So I went the traditional route as well as going a scientific route, so to speak. Um, so they're checking your DNA, they're looking into the genes and all of that stuff. So what was really interesting is, well, not really interesting for me because I understand what divination is and I know how accurate that can actually be. But I think because I'm still born in Western culture and I still have a lot of Western thinking, it was still a bit of a, not a surprise, but a welcoming confirmation to know that with the first, I had gotten that done, a reading done twice actually. With the first reading that I had done, they were saying that my family came from Mali, down through Mali to Ghana before they got to be where they are today. And when I was doing some histories, some initial research based on the results that I got from African Ancestry, when I was looking at that history, that was part of the history of those people, coming down through Mali and some of them ending up, of course, in Ghana. So I thought that that was, an interesting confirmation, even though I know that divination is very accurate. It was still nice to get a confirmation because you're brought up in the West, and regardless of how you're trained and how many years you might have been practicing traditional cultures and understanding and reading about and living some aspect of traditional culture, you're here in the West, so you still have parts and pieces of that Western mind still sitting in you. So it's good to get that confirmation just to reaffirm, yes, the traditions are the way. They know what they're talking about. That science is a science to be reckoned with. Okay, so to the good news. Yay! So this is for my YouTube family as well as my blood family, because this, everybody who took the matrilineal test. I'm jumping all over the place because I'm excited. I took the matrilineal test, and what the matrilineal test is a test that tests my mother's. So it chased my mother's line all the way up to anywhere between 500 to 1,000 years from today. I didn't take the patrilineal test. Only the men can do that. The men can take both sides, but the women can only take the matrilineal test because we don't have both. We don't have the X and the Y gene. We only have the X. I forget. Anyway, we only have one. So, for my blood family, so anybody who is a child of Mary Marthaline Prescott. This is not for all the YouTube families. This is for my blood family. And their children and their children. This benefits all of them, as well as all of her sisters and her brothers of the same mother. Her sisters and her brothers, because we still have family in Barbados. So this also benefits them because I'm the second generation born here in the United States. My family came here via Barbados back in the 1800s, in the latter half of the 1800s. They were missionaries. They came here as missionaries, and they pretty much built the Church of the Nazarene. It's a church that actually they changed the name. I don't know if it's the same congregation or not, but they built the Church of Nazarene, which is on the corner of Bedford and I forget, but on the corner near Bedford in Brooklyn, New York. So they were very instrumental in helping to build that church when they were still on this earth. So I consider myself following in my grandmother's footsteps, but not for Christianity, but for the traditions. So they migrated here And soon you're going to be hearing more about the migration that I would like to do. So I'm looking to migrate as well. And they were missionaries for Christianity, and I consider myself a missionary for traditional spirituality. So I guess I'm following in the footsteps of my grandmother, somewhat. Okay, so back to the results. I'm really excited. So all of this, all my brothers, all my sisters, um, this matrilineal test helps to benefit all of us, as well as our children and cousins and all of that good stuff, uncles and my aunts, as well as my family in Barbados. So I took the test, and the test is saying that we are, drum roll please, we are from the Temne and Mende tribe from Sierra Leone, as well as the Kru tribe from Liberia, as well as the I'm doing everything from memory. The oh my gosh, I can't remember. Fula tribe from Guinea-Bissau. Now, I know a lot of you are probably saying, how can you be from three different tribes? That's because when you take your DNA test, they test in the genetic material. That's the physicality of it. And Temne, Mende, Kru, and Fula, these are cultural aspects of a person. They're cultural. They're not physical. So, African people, they migrated. A lot of different cultures in Africa migrated. They didn't just stay in one place. Um, they followed the food, so, and they followed the situation. So if the situation got to where the land around them was not able to sustain themselves, they would move. They would move to a new place for various different reasons. That's just one of the reasons why they might, migrate and move to another place. And so you have a group of people with the same genetic material that move from, let's say they started in Guinea-Bissau, and for whatever reasons they had to move. So now they moved to the area that is now known, because back then it wasn't known with these, political boundaries, but they're now known as Guinea-Bissau. So they started in an area that's now known as Guinea-Bissau, and they moved down to the area that's now known as Sierra Leone, and they start to practice and they merge with the culture and the practices of the people who were now, instead of being Fula, they emerge with the people and the practices who are now, the Temne and the Mende. Some years after that, they continue to migrate. They migrate to the area that's now known as Liberia, and they're now practicing, the culture of the people who are considered to be Kru today. And so that's how that can happen. That's how you can have all of those different traces. Those, my lineage, are people who moved. They moved from one place to another, and they adopted different cultures within their move. So even though they take my genetic material, and it's just one genetic material, and this is 100%. So their tests are 100% results. It was not like 50% this and 50% that, 10% this and 90% that. It was 100% the results of the people that, went in that, lived in that area. And if you look on the map, though, all of those countries are really close together. You have Liberia, you have Guinea-Bissau, you have Sierra Leone. They're all close together, so it's not even a great migration. It's a very small migration. Now, how they got to be in Ghana, I'm not really sure, but we do know that, a lot of people migrated down to Ghana through the enslavement process. Most of the people in Ghana did end up in the Caribbean, which is where my grandparents are from on my mother's side. So it makes sense that wherever our ancestors were captured, they probably were marched down through Ghana, and they left the port through Ghana to get to the Americas through the enslavement process. So more than likely that is what happened, because that's, through historical information, we know that that's some of the things that happened. So I'm going to say it once again. We are Temne and Mende of Sierra Leone, Fula of Guinea-Bissau, and Kru of Liberia. Now, a really interesting story is, some time ago I was just doing research. I was on my way to Ghana for the very first time, about to take my first trip to the motherland, and I started watching a lot of YouTube channels about Ghana. And then, of course, when you start watching something, they start suggesting things for you. So they started suggesting a lot of things in Africa for me. And I happened to come across a video about Liberia. And through, whose channel was it? It was through Dynast Amir's channel. Or was it Wodimaya? It was either Dynast Amir or Wodimaya, because they are travelers. Wodimaya is Ghanaian YouTuber, and Dynast Amir is uh, born in America YouTuber. I don't think he considers himself American. I'm not sure. But anyway, he's born in America, born in the US. But he also has gotten some information. He's like Nigerian as well. I think he traces lineage back to Nigeria, or he just decided to claim Nigeria. I'm not sure how that happened, but he's a prince in Nigeria. He was crown prince in Nigeria. And I forget his Nigerian name, but I digress. I'm like going off on a tangent. But I was watching one of their channels, and they were in Liberia, and something about the Kru people just really stood out for me. And then I started looking into it, and I couldn't find much of anything, which was really interesting, because when I first got into practicing Akom, which is the traditional spiritual system that comes out of the Ashanti people not the Ashanti people, that comes out of Ghana. Um, when I wanted to learn more about Akom, I also, at that time, because this was years ago, this was about 20 years ago, I couldn't find that much information on the internet. Now you can find a lot more information about Akan and Akom on the internet, but then I couldn't find much of anything. And when I was watching those videos about Liberia, and I heard about the Kru people, something about the Kru people that just really, really resonated with me. And I was like digging, trying to find out more information about Kru. And you couldn't find out much, only that they, during the enslavement process, they were the ones who were seamen. They were seamen. Probably where they, until this day, they get the term, people on a boat, they have, the captain and his crew, because the crew were seamen. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's where that term came from those people. They were very, very adept seamen, and during the enslavement process, they were, resistant. Like a lot of other cultural tribes, they were resistant to slavery. They would wear a blue mark on their forehead so they would know. So, like, the enslavers would know who they were. And they were just really good seamen, and I was so interested, and it really, really resonated with me for whatever reason. And I'm delving, trying to find more information about the Kru people, and I couldn't find much, just that little bit. So I'm still looking for more information about the Kru people. And then when I got my DNA results, see that, yeah, some of my people settled in that area and joined in and were more and merged with that culture, the Kru culture. It just is like, no wonder why I was so so inspired and so, enamored with, and like drawn to the Kru culture and wanting to know more. So I do plan on going back to Ghana, but I also have a new mission. I, of course, I want to visit every country in the beautiful motherland, but I'm going to start with those three countries where my people, migrated to and originated from. So I definitely want to visit Guinea-Bissau, which is a Portuguese-speaking country, and Sierra Leone, which I think they speak a mixture of some indigenous tongues as well as some English, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, Liberia, which also has English as well as their indigenous tongues. And I think both Liberia and Sierra Leone have a sort of pidgin, which is like a mixture of indigenous and English together. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe so. So they gave me a lot of information that I could use to start to delve into learning more about my matrilineal culture back on the motherland. So to all of my family out there, if you would like to have that information, hit me up and I will forward it to you. I already forwarded some to my mother and my sisters. And so, yes, We know our magic clans, and for all my uncles out there, because you guys have to do the daddy side. So doing Pappy's side of the family, you guys would have to do that. I couldn't do it. Any of my brothers who have the same father as me can do it for my father's side. But if we want to get Mama's side as well as Pappy's side, then any of my uncles can do that. Any of my uncle's sons can do that. Yeah, so I put in the challenge back to you guys. Please get the Patrick Clan test. Don't go to Ancestry.com. It's AfricanAncestry.com. Oh, and let me tell you a little about the company. The company is a black-owned company, and their test is a little bit more expensive than the other ones because this black-owned company was started because it was the brother, Rick Kittles, wanted to know more about his family. So, and he's a geneticist. He wanted to know more about his lineage. So that was one of the inspirations behind starting the company. Plus, he had some of the same, fears that a lot of black people have because of the history of white people and using our genes and selling it to this company, because that's what a lot of these other companies do. Um, and if you read the fine print, they, once you give them your DNA, it's now theirs. So they do with it whatever they want. So they can sell it for research, which if you're okay with that, fine. But if you're not okay with that, you might not realize that they have the rights to your DNA and they can sell it and do whatever they want. They can give it to police database. They can do whatever they want with it. And African Ancestry, they do not. And you'll see, I'm going to hold up this so that you can see. You'll know you have the right company because you'll see this logo right here. The African Ancestry logo. And this is it. It's like a DNA helix with a coming down looking like an A. African Ancestry, 100% black owned. They do not sell, they do not keep, they do not use, they do not store your DNA material. Once they do the test to find out where you're from, where your people are from, the DNA is destroyed. And that's what I loved about them. And it's in the fine print is not so fine, so you can read all their terms and conditions. It's humongous. The whole pamphlet pretty much is the terms and conditions, and it's not like 10,000 pages, so you can know what you're signing up for and what they use your DNA for, and all your rights, as far as taking this test is concerned. And you can take the matriculating class and the patriculating test. They don't do like an admixture test, so they're not doing a test to find out, because in your lineages you have lots and lots of lineages. You have your mother and your father, and then on your grandparents level you have 4 lineages. On your level it's 2 because you have your mother and your father. On your grandparents level you have 4 because then each of your grandparents have a mother and a father, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on the great grandparents it's 8, and it gets exponentially larger and larger as you continue to go up. So if you're talking about 1,000 years ago, you have a lot of lineages in between there. But what they do is they do the matriclan and the patriclan. It is that genetic material that doesn't change, that gets passed down from mother to daughter, from mother to daughter, to the next daughter, to the next daughter. So it's my mother's 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 mother's, the material that I got from my mothers, all of my mothers, all of the wombs that, all of my mothers went through, that genetic material that stayed the same, that was passed down to me, that was passed down to my daughters, that will be passed down to their daughters, and so on. Even when I'm not here, that genetic material will still be here, passing down to further lineages. That's what they're looking at to find out who you are and where you came from. So it's really exciting. It helps you to feel, African people in this continent, to feel a little more settled in knowing that you can find your people. You don't have to just say, well, I like this tribe, I'll claim them. Which, I resonate with this tribe, I'll claim them. When you do that, a lot of times you probably are resonating with some aspect of yourself. It's like the blood knows, and it calls out to you, and your ancestors are guiding you towards your people in some kind of way, in some unseen fashion that does exist. So that unseen aspect of humanity and human beings is there, and it does exist, and it does have an effect on our lives. Whether you accept it or not, is there, and it's real. So, a lot of times when you have an affinity to a culture, it's probably because it really is in your blood somewhere down the line. On your mother's side or your father's side, they're trying to call you back home. So, when you just, when you don't know and you just kind of have an affinity to something and you're claiming it, more than likely than not, I believe that, it's just that's your ancestors guiding you towards your lineage, either your mother's lineage or your father's lineage. So it's the same thing on both sides. Either your mother's, or your father. And they don't deal with all of the ones in the middle. They either deal with fully on the mother or fully on the father. And as an African, they ask you to, because most of us we're interested in knowing our African ancestry, and a lot of us do have European ancestry in us because of the behaviors of the slave masters, with the rapes and all the different. Oh, I don't know if I can say that word on YouTube. Oops. Oh well, I said it. With all the different things that happened, um, they're enforcing themselves on African people. We have some DNA on our father's side that may trace back to Europe. So they ask that you, if you really want to trace your African ancestry, that you do your mother side first, because more likely than not, that will definitely go back to Africa. And there's a greater percentage that your patrilineal side will um, trace back to Europe because of the behaviors of the slave masters during the enslavement process. Okay, so that is that. Those are my results, and I thank you for watching. Please do click the subscription button down below and highlight that bell, and so when I upload another video, you'll be sure to get notified that I have uploaded a video. Please comment down below. Please share this video. Help me build my YouTube page, because like I said before, I am interested in migrating, and I want to build my YouTube page to where I can utilize my YouTube page by giving you content that is interesting and enticing and inviting, and getting my YouTube page up to many more subscribers will help me with my migration. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Bye bye.